So after the last couple of weeks talking to you bulls out there, this week we're going to turn it around, talk to the bears, which can be all of us at any point in time, and talk about defining one's fears in order to let them go. So this week we're going to do three things. Number one, we're going to define the fear that really is at the heart of all your questions and concerns. Two, unpack the influences that are keeping us from identifying and dealing with that fear constructively. And lastly, help create a path forward through it to that destination that we all want to get to as investors. So number one, what is this fear? Well, it gets asked about a lot of different ways. People will say, I don't have time to go through a bad market, or I can't go through this again, or what if it just keeps going down? At the end of the day, they're all getting at the same thing, which is, I don't want to run out of money before I die. I know this because statistically, there have been studies done that the number one fear that Americans have is going broke before they die, even more than dying in and of itself. So that is what it is. It's nothing any of us need to be ashamed about. It's certainly something we want to help you tackle head on and address. Part two, though, is identifying what are those influences that might be helping us from really seeing this clearly. Well, number one is the biological impact, that we respond to losses, real or perceived, in the same way we deal with mortal danger, which is panicked-induced decision-making, not constructive, usually for making great decisions. Second is that there are usually unique causes or realities in each time that lead us to think this time is different. Right now, there's a health scare on top of market scares. There's being isolated from those people that we love and care about. None of those things, again, are going to help us in and of themselves impact. If anything, they're going to make things worse. But if we can keep in mind that, again, these feelings are a biological response, not a special opening to be able to look into the future, then we won't act on them. And that's really the biggest thing that we need to remember in this time, is to take that calm breath, call those fears out, and ask ourselves, are those fears real? Well, if you're diversified, if you are broadly invested in asset classes as opposed to a concentrated individual stock position, your chances of going to zero are slim to none, right? You're not going to have the entire US stock market collapse, US bond market collapse, and have said, oh, I'm so glad I did this other thing that kept me safe. That's an entire systemic breakdown. So you can let that go, and you can let it go for a few reasons. One, if it happens, there's nothing you could have done. Number two, the reality of that happening is slim to none. And at the end of the day, that's what you're really afraid about, and again, is easily avoided with a properly constructed portfolio. So what is this path? Number one, again, is the emotional side. Part of that emotional side is understanding, for this path forward, what is the difference between volatility then and risk? I hate this thing called volatility. It makes my stomach turn. You're telling me, while everything in my body is telling me to be on edge, that I don't need to be. Why not? It's because volatility is temporary. Volatility, like turbulence in a plane or some choppy seas on the sea, in and of itself is not fatal. Where market volatility becomes true risk, the running out of money before you die risk, is when you become a forced seller. When your plan was not properly diversified, does not have some cash on hand, does not generate cash in the form of income for you, such that you can get through periods of disruption without having to be a forced seller. That's it. If you've got that game plan, as we certainly do for our clients, you're good. Your key then is stay in the boat, get to the other side. I know for some of you, that's not what you want to hear. You want to get to the other side and you want it to have it be calm, smooth seas. The problem with that, and again, the siren song, if you will, to keep with this nautical theme out there, of running into cash, running into super conservative fixed income, putting all your money in some annuity, is they do not yield enough to keep up with your purchasing power needs. So on their surface, it looks smooth, right? But you're being eroded all the time. You've got food inflating at 2 to 3% historically. You have healthcare inflating it, God knows much higher than that, 6 to 10% was kind of the range that I saw when I went to pull data, let alone all the other things that we want to buy in time. And so this fear you have of volatility can lead you into something that, in our experience, having built hundreds if not thousands of plans, and let alone running all the different Monte Carlo simulations, would probably have you run out of money for most people within 10 years. If you're a billionaire who lives on $100,000 a year, then yeah, it's moot. You can put all your money in the bank or the shoebox, and you don't need to be invested. But for the vast majority of us, we need to have our assets create some reasonable rate of return, produce some type of income stream to get us to the other side. I know for some of you, you're like, well, I'm not saying I'll be in cash forever. I'll go back into some things. And to that, I would just beg you, please stop. At the end of the day, again, people will try to, I've heard it all, verbalize it in a lot of different ways, but what you're saying is you're gonna try to time markets, that you want to have the benefits of investing without the drawback, which is volatility. It's again, the price we pay as investors to make money over time without pushing a broom, without using a rake, tilling land. But you cannot successfully invest trying to time markets, trying to avoid volatility. And so rather again than putting and draining all of your emotion and energy, which during these times is tough enough to come by anyway, into attempting to do those things, save it, save it to be able to have the emotional fortitude that you need to get through this. And if you are gonna spend it on your personal plan. Spend it on engaging with whoever's helping you captain our proverbial ship, for this nautical analogy, to understanding what is our plan, how are we gonna get through. That's gonna help you sleep so much better at night, keep so much better of a constructive plan. But again, define that risk, define what is that real risk, that real concern, and understand that this thing you are afraid of is not the same volatility, and the answers that you're probably being sold or that you're so drawn to during these times are the things that are going to take you down that risky path far more than where you're probably at. With that, thank you so much for bringing us on this voyage with you. This is not our first choppy sea. It's not our first storm. We know how to build that boat. We know how to captain that ship. And we're so honored to be able to take that journey with you, helping you get to that other side, watching people get off in this land of their goals and their dreams is what fires us up to come to work every day. With that, we'll see you soon.